So today we'll talk about Immanuel Wallerstein's three instances of hegemony in the history of the capitalist world economy. I thought that Immanuel Wallerstein's theory is especially applicable in 2024 with conflicts going on around the world at present. It's certainly, I would like to say, my contribution towards an understanding of where we are in the world and vis-a-vis the hegemonic powers and the developing world. So Wallerstein, the dude, basically died in 2019. He was an influential American sociologist and economic historian, renowned for developing the world systems theory, a kind of macro scale approach to understanding uh, the historical and contemporary structure of the global economy. His work spans across sociology, political science, and history, reflecting his interdisciplinary approach to analyzing social systems. So, Wallerstein's most notable contribution, the world systems theory, was introduced in his four-volume work, The Modern World System, between 1974 and 2011. This theory argues that the world economy should be understood as a complex system that is divided into core, semi-peripheral, and peripheral countries. The core countries dominate the global economic system through their advanced industrial capabilities and control of the world's capital and technology. Semi-peripheral countries occupy a kind of middle position, having more development than peripheral countries but lacking the influence of core countries. Peripheral countries, on the other hand, are primarily involved in producing raw materials and agricultural products, often through exploitative conditions, for the benefit of the core countries. So Wallerstein's theory emphasizes the dynamics of global capitalism, including how economic and political inequalities are maintained and perpetuated. He argued that the capitalist world system is characterized by cyclical periods of expansion and contraction, and that systemic crises are an inherent part of the system. According to Wallerstein, the world system has evolved over several centuries, shaped by, of course, colonialism, imperialism, and the global spread of capitalism. Wallerstein's ideas have had a profound impact on various fields, including his field of sociology, political science, international relations, and history. His work, of course, has inspired debates and further research on globalization, development, dependency theory, and the global division of labor. However, despite criticism from various quarters for perceived determinism or perhaps oversimplification, Wallerstein's world system theory remains a seminal framework for analyzing global inequalities and the historical development of the capitalist world economy. So, Immanuel Wallerstein's analysis of the capitalist world economy as part of the broader theory of the world systems approach identifies three distinct periods of hegemony in the history of modern world system. In other words, he's doing a kind of historical sociological analysis, which is certainly the methodology I prefer, and kind of hints at common areas over these three epochs. So Wallerstein's theory views the world economy, as mentioned, as a complex system divided into these three zones: the core, the semi-peripheral, and the peripheral countries, with the economic and political dominance shifting among various hegemonic powers over time. So according to Wallerstein, a hegemonic state has strong economic and military power, allowing it to dominate the rules and norms governing international economic relations. The sequence of achieving and loss of relative efficiencies for these major hegemons would be, first, an edge in agro-industrial production, and then second, an edge in commerce, and of course an edge in finance. And for those of you who don't know the difference, here we go. Commerce in this case is centered on the process of facilitating the exchange of goods and services, while finance is focused on the management of money and investments. So he also argues in this kind of analogy that in this ideology and policy of the hegemonic power, his second analogy is that it advocates for global liberalism, a kind of free flow of factors of production, goods, capital, labor, throughout the world economy. And then also that it's hostile to mercantilist type of restrictions on trade. So more individualistic corporations outside the purview of state control. Then also for a kind of liberal parliamentary institution. And certainly a distaste for political change by violent means. However, it will engage in violent means if it suits the hegemon. They tended to provide a high standard of living for the national working classes, high by world standards. And then the third analogy is the primacy on sea and now sea air power. And second, reluctant to develop armies for land wars, as land wars are expensive, had to develop because of major land-based rivals these days, like in Afghanistan and so on. And then there are three instances of hegemony in the capitalist world economy that Wallerstein identifies, and some of you are familiar with these. But the first would be the Dutch Republic, approximately 17th century. So the Dutch Republic, with its advanced naval power, control over international trade routes, and financial innovations such as the creation of the Amsterdam Stock Exchange, managed to dominate global trade. The Dutch model of capitalism was characterized by its mercantile practices, colonial exploitation, as in the Bantam republics, the Bay of Bengal, for example, South Africa, and so on. And more so, notably, with most of its resource extraction coming from the East Indies, and of course, the pioneering of financial institutions. Then he identifies the second hegemonic period, the British hegemony in the 19th century, as the second one. So the United Kingdom's Industrial Revolution, which began in the late 18th century, gave it a significant technological and productive advantage over other nations. Britain's global empire, dominance in manufacturing and trade, you know the histories of extraction from India and so on, and the establishment of the gold standard as the basis for international financial transactions solidified its hegemonic position. Even though it had no gold in Britain, it was extracting from its colonies like in Ghana, South Africa, Australia, and so forth. So the British Navy, of course, played a crucial role in securing trade routes and protecting colonial interests, and then further establishing Britain's economic and political dominance. And then finally, present day, the United States from the mid-20th century. So especially so as it emerges as the hegemonic power in the mid-20th century, particularly after World War II. So Wallerstein points to the combination of the United States industrial capacity, technological advancement, control over oil resources, and its role in establishing international institutions such as the United Nations, International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, these being key to its hegemonic status. And then a key time in history, of course, would be the Bretton Woods system, which pegged global currencies to the US dollar. And of course, the Marshall Plan after the Second World War, which helped rebuild Europe while opening markets to American goods. These are examples of how the US established and maintained its dominance and present-day position as the third hegemonic state. But Wallerstein is also arguing that these states are cyclical and temporary. So he argues that that hegemony within these capitalist world economies are cyclical and temporary, and that with each hegemonic power, there's eventually decline due to a combination of internal contradictions, economic overextension, and of course, as we can see today, the rise of competing powers. So the transitions between hegemonic periods are marked by periods of geopolitical and economic instability as new powers emerge and challenge the existing order. The concept of hegemony is crucial to understanding the dynamics of global capitalism and the shifting balance of power among states within the world system. So what's this hegemony for Wallerstein? Hegemony in Wallerstein's analysis refers to the ability of a particular nation, state, or sometimes group of states to dominate the rules and norms of the global economic system, ensuring that the system operates in a way that benefit the hegemonic power's interests. This dominance is not merely economic, but also political and cultural, allowing the hegemonic power to shape global institutions, standards, and values to sustain its position at the top of the world system hierarchy. So some aspects of Wallerstein's hegemony would include economic dominance. The hegemonic power possesses advanced industrial capabilities, controls critical trade routes, and has significant influence over global markets and the terms of international trade. This economic strength enables the hegemonic state to accumulate capital at a scale and efficiency beyond its rivals. And then military power. So hegemony requires a strong military, not just for the direct application of force, but also to protect economic interests, maintain secure trade routes, and deter challenges to the economic order. And then, of course, there's technological innovation. The leading state in the world system tends to be at the forefront of technological innovation, giving it an advantage in productivity and military capabilities, which in turn reinforces its economic and political power. Also important would be cultural influence. Hegemonic powers also exert soft power through the spread of their culture, language, and values, influencing other nations, societies, and elites to adopt norms and practices that align with the hegemon's interests. And then there's institutional leadership. The hegemon plays a crucial role in establishing and leading international institutions and frameworks that govern global economic relations, such as trade agreements, financial systems, and diplomatic alliances. Yes, you're right. They also have the right to veto any decision-making that international countries may want to impose against them. So military power and geopolitical strategies are also integral components of this analysis, as they are closely intertwined with economic dominance in the establishment and maintenance of hegemony. While Wallerstein's work emphasizes the economic foundations of the world system, including the division into core, peripheral, semi-peripheral, and peripheral areas, it implicitly acknowledges the role of military power in enforcing and sustaining these economic relationships. So, in this enforcement of economic order, military power is used by hegemonic states to protect their economic interests globally, secure trade routes, and ensure access to resources. The capacity to protect military power across the world is a key aspect of maintaining economic dominance, as seen in the roles played by the navies and armies of the Dutch Republic, the British Empire, and now the United States during their respective periods of hegemony. How about the containment of rival powers? So, hegemonic states use their military capabilities to contain and deter potential rivals. This can involve direct military confrontation, support for allies, or the establishment of military bases in strategic locations, as in the South China Sea, the Middle East, and so on. So military power is thus a tool for maintaining the balance of power in the hegemon's favor. And then what about support for friendly regimes? So military interventions or the threat thereof can be used to support regimes that are economically or strategically aligned with the hegemon's interests, as well as to destabilize or overthrow those that are not. This aspect of military power has been evident in various conflicts and interventions throughout the history of the modern world system. So some of the symbols of hegemonic authority. Beyond its practical uses, a strong military serves as a symbol of the hegemon's authority and capability, reinforcing its leadership role within the global system. This symbolic power can deter challengers and encourage other states to align themselves with the hegemon's policies and objectives. And then finally, I argue for this totalizing dynamism. In Wallerstein's framework, the interplay between economic systems, political structures, and military power shapes the dynamics of the world system. Military power, while not the central focus of Wallerstein's theory, is nevertheless understood as a crucial element in the maintenance of hegemony and the enforcement of the global capitalist system. The cyclical rise and fall of hegemonic powers, according to Wallerstein, involve not just economic competition and technological innovation, but also shifts its military capabilities and geopolitical strategies. Well, I hope a careful reading and listening to the Wallerstein's world systems theory kind of sheds a better understanding as to the realpolitik of global capitalism and economic power in 2024. Thank you.